Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new series. Today we're going to start Shin Megami Tensei by ATLUS. This game was released in 1992 for the Super Famicom. It never made it to the United States in its original cartridge-based format. It was translated into English by a group known as Aeon Genesis in 2002. One quick note about their patch is that it introduces a lot of bugs into the game, so if you're going to play along, make sure that you do not get a pre-patched version of the game. Go and find yourself the bug-fixed version of the patch and apply it manually. So, with that out of the way, let's talk a bit about the game itself, the series itself. Now, a lot of people don't really know a lot about the Megaten series. And when you do mention the series, the first thing that pops in their head is Persona. And I have seen so many people that don't like story choices in Persona, and they automatically think that all the games in the series are like that, and they drop it. And it makes me sad, because they're, not that way, The games are not all structured that way. Pretty much only the Persona games are structured that way. When you're talking about Shin Megami Tensei versus Persona, or pretty much any of the additional spin-offs, there are two major differences between this. You have issues of tone and issues of scope. Now, overall, the Persona games, and I'm using Persona as the baseline example here, but this actually applies to pretty much all the other spin-off games. Avatar Tuner, Digital Devil Saga, whatever you want to call it, Persona, Devil Survivor, Raidokuzu Naha's Devil Summoner. I mean, all of that, they are generally much lighter in tone than the mainline games. This has honestly got more to do with the characters than it does the stories themselves, because they all tend to be more character-driven affairs. So even though these characters are in very, very dark and depressing situations, they significantly lighten the mood with, funny character moments and things like that. Stuff like that doesn't really happen in the main series due to the fact that you are generally alone. I mean, as a series, they go for a very oppressive, almost lonesome setting. It's kind of weird. You'll see what I mean as we play the game. And even the characters that do join your party, they're not funny, There are no Yosuke's, there are no Junpei's in Shin Megami Tensei. It's all very, very serious. Lots of people die, and the people that are left to tell the tale live miserable lives. So, I mean, very dark, and the other tone that sets the two series apart, and once again, I use Persona as the baseline, but this actually can extend to all of them, is a issue of tone. Excuse me, not tone, I already talked about that. Scope. In a Persona game, in your Digital Devil Saga games, it's a relatively narrow scope. You have one group of people who are fighting a concrete individual threat. You go, you team up, you become friends, and you face the villain. Everyone lives a happily ever after, more or less. Now, in these games, it's not about you going and fighting the villain. It's about you being swallowed up in this giant conflict. whether it's between the forces of this side and the forces of this side, because it changes from game to game. Who's on either side of the war. Sometimes there's more than two sides. But you are the weight that decides where the scale falls. And it's very, very good. And this game right here does an amazing job at multiple endings. And I'm just going to sit here and I could gush forever about it. But just don't go into this expecting something like Persona. There are similar mechanics. There are similar things you will recognize a lot. It's basically going to be like looking into an alternate reality mirror if all you're familiar with is Persona. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started, and I will see you guys next time in the first real episode of the series. So, bye.